actually that we're gonna actually have my buddy Braden. He's a pretty awesome guy. He's got some wild stories to share with you guys of just what God's done in his life. And he's actually a missionary that in the next couple months here, he's headed to Tijuana, Mexico, to go for at least a couple months, to potentially upwards to 5 years. So I'll leave that to him. Thanks, guys. Just gonna pray for you before
So Father God, I just thank you so much for this time together. And Lord, I pray that as Braden shares his story, Lord, that we can connect to it. God, that we can see how, as he shares about where Jesus is in every corner, every crevice in his life, Lord, that we can see that it's not the Braden story, it's the Jesus story. And God, help us to see you in our lives, to go back and think of all the times where you've been there for us and where you will be there for us in the future. God, give us confidence. Help us to trust in the Sabbath rest that you offer to us all. In Jesus' mighty name, amen.
So as Aaron said, my name is Braden. It's great to be here today. I just thank you, Aaron, for the opportunity to come and share my story with everybody. So I grew up in a little small town, middle of nowhere, northern Alberta, on a farm, and very simple place, very strong Christian influence in my life with my parents, and we went to church every Sunday, and we would just live that life of, we're the church family, right? And the community was a strong farm community, and so everybody kind of lived that Christian life. But when I was growing up, I didn't quite feel like I didn't connect with God. I didn't ever connect with him in a way of understanding who he truly was. I read the Bible, I knew who he was, I knew what everybody said he was, but I never actually truly knew him. And so as I grew up, I started to go away from him a little bit. When I was 16, 17 years old, my parents gave us a choice and said, you guys can either keep following the Lord and come to church, or you can leave. And like a shot, I was gone. I was like, I want to experience this world. I want to experience what all my friends were talking about at school, what everybody was talking about, the partying and all the fun stuff that I thought was better than life with God. So I got into that. I went into the oil field. I started working when I turned 18. And as I got into that party lifestyle, that work lifestyle, I was working so much that I started using drugs to be able to work longer, right? Like, there's only so many hours in a day, but you can stay awake 3-4 days, you can get more work done. And so I started getting into drugs to be able to work more, because I thought, I'll make more money, life will be better. Unfortunately, it's not. It's not any better when you get into that, because your life is then just this, like Aaron said, this hamster wheel of constant searching for something, constant looking for what am I doing? Why am I working so much? What's the purpose of me being here? And so you can work all you want and just keep searching for that thing in the world, and realize that it's nothing. It's not fulfilling. It's very temporary. It's very, very just, there's nothing. There's nothing to it, right? And so as I was in that life, because I got into the drugs, because I got into the partying, I ended up getting into a crowd of people that, I was very angry, because when I grew up, I'm a big guy, right? I've always been a big guy. I was always the fat kid growing up, and so I always got picked on for being the fat kid. And so there was a lot of hurt, there was a lot of pain in me. And when I was doing those drugs to work more, I was like, ooh, I don't feel that pain. This is fantastic, right? So I just kept doing them. So then just to get away from that pain, I kept doing drugs, kept running, kept partying, and it would temporarily pull me away from that pain and from that anger and hurt that I had inside. And so as I was, getting into that life, well, then you have to be able to fund that. And so to fund that, I ended up using my size as a bigger guy to enforce and end up, hurting a lot of people that if anybody who knows me knows, I'm a big guy, but I got a real soft heart. I'm a teddy bear. And so that person wasn't me. That angry guy who was always mad, who was always constantly, searching for the next high, searching for the next fun thing, searching for what this world had to offer, and was hurting people on the way to do it because I didn't care about anyone but me, right? That wasn't me, but that's who the drugs had me thinking I was, right? And so I was living this life of just constant, just running. It felt like I was a spinning wheel in a rut. Right, you're in the mud and you're spinning and you're spinning and spinning, and so you're going somewhere, but you're actually not going anywhere. And I just felt stuck. And so I eventually made the decision that I was like, okay, I need to get out of this. I need to get sober. So I picked up all my stuff after a vacation my family took to Kelowna, and 5 days later I lived in Kelowna. I moved. I said I'm done. I quit my job, picked up my stuff, moved everything, got a job in Kelowna, started working there, and just said, I'm getting sober. I can't do this anymore. I can't do the drugs. I can't do the partying, right? So I get to Kelowna. I'm living in Kelowna. It's beautiful. I'm from, the prairies, the middle of nowhere. So mountains and lakes were not a thing where I came from. And so to be able to live in Kelowna where there's this just gorgeous landscape and this amazing picture of God's creation was just, it was such a blessing, right? And so I was able to get sober, but I was still wasn't searching for the Lord. I was still kind of like, okay, I'm sober, I'm good now, right? I can just keep living my life how I want to live it. And it was still just as empty. And so I was like, what is going on? Why am I living life and I'm sober now, I'm good, I'm working, I'm stable, but everything's still empty? There's nothing there, and I just feel this emptiness in my life. And because I grew up Christian, I grew up with a really strong Christian influence. When I was going through that period of partying and drugs and this life, God was always there. Like there was times where I'd be, doing cocaine, and then I'd be like, oh, Jesus, forgive me of my sins, and then I'd do more cocaine. Because I was like, if I don't get forgiven, I'm going to hell. And so then but then I'd go right back to it, right? So there was always that influence in my life. And so when I was in Kelowna, I was like, you know what? It's time that I maybe see something about this God thing, right? Maybe I should get into a church. Maybe it's something I missed when I was a kid, right? And so I reached out to my parents, and they had known a friend who was living in Kelowna. So I connected with him, and it's funny, the first time I went into the coffee shop to meet with him, to talk to him about God, I walked up and he looked at me in my eyes and shook my hand and said, God has big plans for you. And I was like, oh yeah, okay, buddy. No, he doesn't. You don't know me. You don't know what I've done, right? But, 5-6 years later now, he was right. And so when he said that to me, there was just it did something in me. It did something in me to be like, maybe there is more for me than this life. Maybe there's more for me in this world than what I can do, than what I can actually produce. And so I started going to church. I met a lot of good people. I ended up getting baptized. It was amazing. And I was still just going to church on Sundays, and every day through the week I was just living for the world, right? I was just living, doing what I wanted to do. And so I was talking to a guy this one time, and I can't remember exactly who it was, but I was sitting there talking to him, kind of telling him what was going on and how I was feeling and how I was, kind of just not feeling like I was connecting with God still. And he said, man, you can sit on the fence between heaven and hell, but the devil owns the fence. And that hit me. That hit me. I was like, oh no, that's yikes. That's not good. I'm still not serving the Lord. I'm still just doing what I want to do, right? And so after that, I was like, okay, God, I want to push in more. And so I started reading my Bible a little more, started actually creating a personal relationship with Jesus. And as I created that personal relationship with Jesus, it was a real eye-opener to realize how little I actually knew about God. You know, I knew what everybody told me. I knew what was in what I'd read before as a kid with the songs said in youth group and all that stuff, but I never really knew God until I started reading my Bible. And once I started to get to know him and who he was, I started to know that he loved me and that his love for me was like a love I had never experienced before in my life. And when you realize that God's love is unconditional, yeah, you can say, oh, I know it's unconditional. But when you finally understand it, when you finally understand that no matter what you do, past, present, future, he loves you. He cares for you. And that's why Jesus died on the cross was for us, was to cover those sins, to allow us to know his true love for us, right? And so as I became closer to him and found that true love, I was like, man, I am not doing enough for God. Like this, going to church on Sundays is not enough. And so I started searching for ways that I could, serve the Lord. And that's when I found the Bond Slaves. And so I actually joined up with their program and started doing ministry with them and realizing that I wanted to tell people about Jesus and what he had done in my life because I had seen what he could do for me. And if he could save me, he could save anyone, So it was a great honor to be with their program for a while. And I just realized it wasn't the right path for me, and so we split ways very cleanly, very amicably. I think that's how you say that word. and I started pursuing the Lord even more in a different route, and I was as a missionary, as an evangelist, and someone who wanted to go around and preach the gospel. And so I found a church actually in Vancouver, who, for some reason, God drew me to them. He drew me to them. He drew me to the pastor, to the church, to everything that was going on there. I was like, I don't know what it is, but I want to be here. And so I started going there and started traveling from Kelowna to Vancouver every week. And we'd go to the service in Vancouver and then go back to Kelowna and every week from like February till May. And so it was a big commitment, but it was God had drawn me there, right? And so when he drew me there, I was sitting there watching this service in my apartment in Kelowna. And I was sitting there watching the service, and the service was on God encounters. And I had never encountered the Lord face to face. I had never encountered him in any way other than, believing and talking to him. And so I was sitting there watching TV, and we're watching this service, and all of a sudden I found myself on the floor just weeping. And I was weeping and crying and laughing all at once, and my roommate was like, dude, like, he thought I was possessed. He didn't know what was going on. And so I was like, all of this was happening, and all of a sudden I'm on my knees, and I see out in front of me the hands of God reached out. And I had a stick on my shoulders that had 2 buckets on it. And I took that stick off and I put it in his hands. And as I did that, I started just doing this. And I started taking 29, 30 years of just pain, hurt, anger, everything that I had pushed down because I was told that real men don't cry, real men don't have emotions, just deal with it, just, you're okay, you're tough, you're big, just handle it. And I took it all out and I put it in those buckets. And when I finally had just felt like I had taken everything out, I heard God say to me, you're free now, my son. And I felt this weight, like a physical weight, lift off my body. And when I felt that weight lift off my body, for the first time in my life, my mind was silent. I had peace. I had never known peace before that. I always had this constant track in my head of, you're not doing the right thing, you're not enough, you'll never be enough, it doesn't matter what you say, you're dumb. All this stuff the devil was just in my head. And when I finally had given everything, when I finally decided to trust God and put my rest and trust in him, that's when that peace came. So Aaron talks about there being rest in the Lord, but you have to trust him. That's what he means. He means you trust God by saying, God, I can't do it. God, I can't do this. There's no way that I am physically strong enough to be able to do life without you. You know, I can try, I can run hard, I can do everything I can, but I will not ever do what you've called me to do on my own. And when you do that, you put your faith and trust in him and say, God, you are the one who I need. I need you in my day-to-day life, and I trust you. And when you trust in him, you can finally sit back and say, okay, God, now it's on you. It's on you, right? Like, life's on you. The burden's on you now. And he wants us. He has never designed us to be burden bearers. He wants us to be peace carriers. And so the burdens, he wants us to put them on him, right? When you find your rest in the Lord, you cast all your burdens on him. You cast all of those problems that you've been carrying on him, and you finally get peace. And so once I finally got that peace from the Lord, I was able to clearly see, man, I just haven't been doing what God wants me to do. I've been doing what I want to do. I've been trying to do it on my own. I thought I was giving it to God, but I didn't, right? And so until I fully submitted my entire life to God, I never found true peace. I never found true happiness. But once I did, once I submitted my life to God, and once I said, God, whatever happens, it's you. Wherever you want me to go, I'll go. Whatever you want me to do, I'll do. And whenever you want me to do it, I'll do it, you know, and I'm yours. I'm fully submitted to you. There has been such a peace and a calm in my life. It has been the hardest 2 years I've ever had, but it has been the most peaceful 2 years I've ever had, because I have been able to go through all those things and say, God's by my side, so it's okay. I can do it, you know, and when you have God by your side, when you let him take your problems, when you let him run your life and submit it to him, then you can finally just say, okay, God, I'm good. You know, whatever it is. Whatever it'll be, right? And so now I'm a missionary, and I'm actually going to be moving to Tijuana, Mexico. I'm going to be going down there as a kind of connection with our church here, and we're going to be doing outreach and, you know, maintenance, whatever they need in the building. However I need to serve the church, I'll serve them. But that would have never been possible if I hadn't have fully submitted my life to God. If I hadn't have fully said, God, I'm yours, you know? And so just, I ask you to, you know, if you do anything when you leave here, just maybe have that conversation with God and say, God, how can I trust you more? How can I trust you more? What do I need to do to be able to trust you more, so I can rest, so I can enjoy your peace, so I can enjoy your comfort, so I can enjoy who you are? And as the band comes here, I'm just going to give you guys one more verse here for the end of the day. That this really, I was praying about it, and I just said, God, I want you to give me a verse to share with my testimony. And this verse really stuck out to me. And so it's Isaiah 40, verse 29 through 31. And it says, he gives strength to the weary and increases the power of the weak. Even youths grow tired and weary, and young men will stumble and fall. But those who hope in the Lord will renew their strength. They will soar on wings like eagles. They will run and not grow weary. They will walk and not grow faint. So it doesn't matter what you're doing, doesn't matter how much above what you think you can do you're currently doing. If you're doing it in God and it's God's will for you, he'll give you the peace in it. He'll give you that rest in it, and he'll give you the strength to do it. He'll allow you to have that moment with him and just say, okay, my son, you're free. Or okay, my daughter, you're free. I have you. I've got you. I'm here with you. It's okay to stumble, but I've got you. I'll be there to pick you up. It's okay because I'm here with you. And so just fully trust in the Lord. Put your trust in him and rest in him, and he will walk alongside you. So I just want to thank you guys all for letting me share my testimony and letting me come today.